What's up, everybody? We'll go through some of the main stuff for Stocklabs, and then, there's only a few of you in here right now, so you can sort of just jump in with questions anytime you want, and don't worry about like interrupting or anything, because if there were a lot of other people in here, then we'd do it a little bit different, but for now that'll be fine. All right, so we'll start here on first. Everyone can see the screen I'm sharing, right? I'm not sharing the wrong screen. Yeah, so market overview is up, and we're looking at the live floor. This is your main spot that you're going to find basically everything you need to know about the overall market in general. So Fly has these indices built, and they're divided up by market cap. So Stocklabs pennies, this is 150 stocks under $250 million market cap. Small caps is 250 stocks under $1 billion, and mega caps and tera caps, these are 50 each. Mega caps is 50 to 100 billion, and tera caps is anything over about 150 billion. Let me just double check. So you can click on any one of them. You'll see like some general statistics. There's performance chart, and if you go constituent, it'll tell you what's in them. So yeah, this is mega caps up to 100 billion. So it's probably, yeah, so it's a little more than 50 billion, but I'm guessing that the actual floor is 50 billion. Any one of these indices, they get rebalanced every day. So if something falls out, or even if something falls out, it'll just get replaced with something else. Or something could promote up, but there's gap between all these things. So like this is, there's 750 million market cap from the top of this to to the top of this, but say like from small caps to mega caps, like you're not going to get from 1 billion to 50 or 60 billion in a day. So it would take some time to promote all the way through. Anyway, across the middle, this is your overbought, oversold, and scores. These are the same scores that carried over from Exodus. So you can see each day and over time the trend of what it's looked like, and you have your bands plotted. So these are the thresholds for overbought, oversold, and then depending on your time frame, those will change along with the markings of where the signals actually took place. So right now we're focusing primarily on 6 month, especially for oversold. It's the only signal that we've gotten recently. Like you saw on the 12 month, we haven't hit 12 month in a long time. So there were a bunch last March, 12 month. There were a bunch in the 2018 collapse, and this was the XIV blow up and like some of the weeks after that. So really 12 month is Like if we even get to 12-month at some point, it's going to be it's a pretty severe correction, or there's at least a lot of volatility all at once. I don't know what it would take to get to something like these. I mean, these would be pretty wild to trigger. So anyway, 6-month is what we're focusing on. So you can see, like, we get like signals often enough. I mean, they come in. So, and the most recent one we had was, yeah, I think it was last week? Yeah, last week. And it worked out pretty well. I mean, I think it was to the day of when the market bottomed. So let's see, April 20th. So I mean, yeah, market dropped for 2 days. It says oversold, and then we sort of walk up. I mean, there was one day where we dropped back down, but not bad. So eventually this will change where it's not going to be as clean probably as this, because when that breaks and when one of those doesn't work, it's really going to probably let loose to the downside. So that's our general overbought, oversold. The new thing for Stocklabs is intelligence. So this is quite a bit different from overbought, oversold, because if we go back to overbought, oversold, the only time this is going to give you any sort of signal is if you actually cross this threshold. So anytime you're inside these bands, you're not going to be able to get any information from overbought, oversold. So intelligence fixes that a little bit, where you can get a signal or you can get statistics for any period of time or any moment in time that you want. So you could check the stats for the current reading on command, and that's what this does. So you have your granularity up here. This is the tolerance that Stocklabs is using to test the score that it has. Right now we have 2.47 score, and granularity defaults to 0.1. So that means Stocklabs is testing scores plus or minus 0.1 from the current score, 2.47. So 2.37 to 2.57, and we can choose any backtest period. Let's say we do 6 months. So this is saying in the last 6 months, we've had four scores, 2.37 to 2.57, and these are the statistics of how they played out. So I would call this pretty mixed. I wouldn't call it really anything special or useful. We had last week, we had something like these were all green, like 1, 2, 3, 4%. But you can see like the market already made the move. So it's like it already happened. And then the scores adjust, and then the stats get rerun. So that's how that works. And you have it for both tech scores and hybrid scores. It's a little better on hybrid. I guess depending on what your preference is for which one you want to rely on. I think for me, intelligence, usually I'm focusing on tech scores, and overbought, oversold, I generally just look at hybrid scores. So that's just my preference on which ones I put more weight on, depending on which tool I'm looking at. So you have both of these, overbought, oversold, and intelligence. Probably when the market is just sort of trending in low volatility, in a low volatility regime like it is now, you can probably focus on intelligence more. It's gonna mainly pick up on gentle, inflection points, or like gentle dips that you want to buy or whatever. Whereas if the market got much more volatile, you're probably better off focusing on overbought, oversold, because that's testing against big stress points in the market. So this is sort of the overbought, oversold was designed to sort of pick up some sort of capitulation, or sort of getting a reading on when like a large washout happened or is about to happen. Generally, when we play these signals, like if we get an oversold signal at the close on Tuesday, then our rule of thumb was always kind of on, we would expect a little bit of an additional gap down on the next day that we would buy. I mean, sometimes you can just buy sometimes I just buy the close on the signal. I don't think it makes that big of a difference. So it's just a matter of how you want to play it. Through the middle here, these are just main stats on the overall market, like fundamental stats, certain key ratios. Let's see. It'll give you number of oversold stocks. It'll give you number of stocks above sort of like key moving averages. These are usually tells on how well the market is behaving overall or whatever. 52-week highs, 52-week lows, so it's like 10 to 1. That's pretty good. Your sectors across the middle here, these are the same as Exodus. So you can come in here. You have the choice to add a lot of screener criteria to these columns. The only thing for right now is that those columns won't stay. So if you add a column and then you click away and click back, it'll just go back to these default ones. Eventually, I think it'll be sort of like your own custom presets where it'll be tied to your name, that if you add columns to this, they'll stick. So then you can see exactly the stuff that you want to see on this live floor page when you load it up. And then down below this is going to move. Yeah, this is going to move, but these are Fly's custom indices builds every now and then when some sort of theme pops up or any sort of new trend starts picking up, or if there's a particular sector or group of stocks that gives a tell on what's going on in the market, or if these are popping, then it's risk off or risk on or anything like that. So there's a ton of these, and he sort of just builds them whenever and then leaves them in here. So some of them might not be as relevant, but they're usually good to have a glance at. So retail was the best thing today. All right, so that's the live floor page. Gives you a lot of just the general overall market stuff. Like we said, you can get any of your stats for overbought, oversold, intelligence, sector movement, etc. algo page, this is another spot that you can see your overbought, oversold stats. This is table form. If we go back to 6 month, so like on the live floor page, we had the chart. This is table form. The signals are marked in the data, or you can pull up the chart here too. This is the same chart as the live floor page. So you can get to this chart via live floor or algo tab. Seasonality is a lot more filled out than Exodus was. I think this has about 30 years of data, where Exodus had about, I think like 6. I think it went from 2008 or 9 to 15 or 16. So yeah, this is built out a lot better. So the stats are a lot more reliable. You can see that we are in the midst of the most bullish month historically. So April, generally plus 2.4%. I think we're up like 5.5% right now. So definitely beating the pace for now. Financials, these are for the overall market. This tab exists for any individual stock too. So you're going to be able to look at these on an individual basis too. And there's going to be more fundamental stats on individual stock pages too. So like if we went to Amazon and went to financials, you can see there's more tabs here. You can see buybacks. Amazon not big on buybacks. Gross margin, pretty steady for like, what is this, 15 years, and then creeping up more and more. So it's good. What else? Free cash flow, just going through the roof. Revenues doing the same thing for sure. Okay. So yeah, so that was the financial stat for an individual stock. You have all those charts you can view on quarterly or annual basis on the overall market too. Earnings, this is our earnings calendar. Pretty standard as far as like if you went to some website that showed you what earnings were coming up or who was due to report, that's what this does. So if we can see who reports tomorrow. If you wanted to be really degenerate and just come in here and see any hot stocks were gonna report in the next day or week or whatever, this is where you'd go to find them. And we also have Intelligence Screener. This is the same system as Intelligent on the market or overbought, oversold on the market. It's just applied to regular stocks. So these are all intelligence tech scores. What you're going to want to do when you use this is you're going to want to change these columns. So like you see all these ones in here, they only have one data point. So I usually go with 5 or more. And then I say 65% of the time. So what's the best thing we got in here? Somebody pointed this out earlier. But yeah, Intelligence really bullish on it. some kind of Mexican thing. Also, whatever this is. Top rated intelligence as of the close. I mean, I guess you could say this is kind of, I don't know. Stocklabs likes it, so I guess we'll see. Yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff in here. These are all sorted by the average up score. So all these ones are probably good because you see this, it's like 5-0, 6-0, 5-0, 5-0, 7-0, 9-1, 7-1, 5-0. So these, at the current score, these stocks almost or basically always trade up. So this is how you'd use something like this to maybe narrow down what tickers you want to look at for buys or anything like that. What else was I going to say about this? Oh, these columns do the same thing where if you click out of here, you just go back to live floor, and then I go back to screener. You see how the columns, they went back to the default thing, the default settings. So you'd have to redo that every time you came back to this screen, which is a little annoying for now, but should be changed in time. Overbought, oversold, same thing, works the same way as the overall market. You're gonna be able to change your time frames, whether it's tech or hybrid, oversold or overbought, obviously, and your forward return time frame. Same thing with this. You want to pick some number. I would say at least 5. That's going to keep a lot of the garbage or outlier stuff out. So what do we have here? I mean, really, there's not a lot on here. I mean, these aren't like anything special. I mean, 3% bounce. I mean, the thing was down 5% today, so it's like, who cares? But yeah, these will, the same way that we had the chart with like the bands of overbought, oversold, you can see that chart for any stock too. So if you go to any stocks page and go to the algo tab, and then say you pick 6 month, and then you click over here where instead of detail view, you go to chart view. So this is the same view that you could see on the overall market, except every individual stock has this readout that you can see as well. So that makes it easy to visualize the stress points over time that the stock has seen. So basically it for the market overview tab. A lot of the stuff from the live floor can also be found in other places, but if you need a one-stop base to find a lot of information at once, you just come to this live floor either in the morning or throughout the day. I generally check this like right at the open, like first 15 minutes or so I'll spend on the live floor page just to see how some of these things are moving around, and then sort of move on to screener or any of these other tabs that I use throughout the day. So let me just ask, are there any questions so far, especially like questions on intelligence or overbought, oversold, or anything else that I sort of breezed through already? You can either type in the chat or you can unmute yourself and talk or whatever. Doesn't matter to me.
So I noticed that the intelligence seems to change, more or less almost every second. Is that like suggesting that you're using this for a pinpoint, accurate entry into any given security?
Yeah, so intelligence is pretty sensitive, especially on the tech side, because these tech scores, they change. I mean, they could change a lot, like throughout the day. So it is a little bit, it probably does take a little bit getting used to for how exactly to, like you said, time and entry or an exit. But yeah, so I would rely on it mostly. Like I don't focus on it as much, just like at any old like random time throughout the day. I sort of check it like at like particular times throughout the day. So say in the first like 15 to 30 minutes of the day, I'll take that sort of like intelligence reading as like a quote unquote like good one, or towards the end of the day too, and then especially the close. Like if the reading locks in on the close, then that's like equally as good, is how I sort of use it. Because yeah, if you especially if the market was moving around a lot through the day. I mean, we don't get intraday moves anymore that much. I mean, we're lucky if the market moves like 0.25%, which is like kind of annoying. But if the market was moving like 1% or 1.5% throughout the day, then the intelligence scores would kind of be going like a little bit nuts, probably. So yeah, it is like, it's not an exact science. It's not an exact science for when exactly you would take the reading and like an entry or whatever. You would kind of use this as a supplemental tool for any other analysis you might have or be doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, but it is pretty sensitive. So like if you just had this page up, throughout the day, these numbers would probably change a lot throughout the day. Like they'll change so much that like you won't be able to make any sense out of it. Like it'll be like, oh, it's plus 0.5% and all this stuff, and then like 2 hours later it'll be like, oh, it says minus 1, minus 1.3 or something. Like, all right, now I'm screwed or something like that. Like it's not, it doesn't make a lot of sense to like eagle eye it like that so much. But I would say like right in the morning, the scores you get, and towards the end of the day, the scores you get are your best readings. I mean, that's when the most volume is trading in the market. That's when all the real money is sort of like changing hands. So like any scores that we're getting at those times of days are going to be more reliable than like sort of like the dead hours from like, I don't know, like 10:30 to 2 or whatever. Like, there's nothing going on in the market during those hours.
All right, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks again, man.
Yeah. So that's so that's everything for market overview page. Some of the other main tabs, I mean, people are probably pretty familiar with the news tab. Some, I don't do much of this, but this is, some people probably like to just have a separate window open with all the latest news right in front of our face. You can also get to that. I have it minimized, but down here, no, not down here. This will populate at the same times that these do. So I'd also just keep it minimized. I don't focus on that too much. Industries tab. This is going to have a lot of your, this is sort of like an expanded version of the market overview page, the stuff in the middle with the different sectors. And you can get different time frame returns for any sector. So if we went to 1 month, so we can see healthcare has been a little bit of a laggard. It's actually been catching up the past week or so. Actually, since the oversold reading we got on the overall market. Everything else is pretty much in line. I wouldn't say anything is doing like clear. I mean, industrial goods is #1, but everything else is sort of in line. And these are all actually, yeah, these are all around 3 or 4%. Healthcare is negative, so healthcare is going to catch up and go green probably for a month-over-month reading at some point. 3 month, actually tech has been somewhat of a laggard. I mean, we all sort of know like the momentum tech stuff died like a while back as far as being like sustainable gains like all the time like it used to be. Materials have been like crushing it, obviously. Services, there's a lot of like consumer discretionary stuff in here, so people like that right now. But anyway, all of these have like any number of subset categories. So like if we go into application software here, is obviously under technology. You have these tabs across the top, and if we go to the algo tab, we can see sort of overbought, oversold on the sector as a whole, in the same way that we could look at either an individual stock or the entire market or whatever. So this gives you sort of a sector overview of if something is due for mean reversion or if it's going to bounce or drop or whatever. So you have all these. Let's go further. Yeah, so you can see like for something like app software where it hasn't really been trending up. Like in general, there's been more failed rallies than anything. And what Stocklabs is doing, Exodus did the same thing, but you can see like the lower band, like the oversold band keeps getting ratcheted down because it's adjusting to these stocks not performing well. So basically they're getting like what it's saying is more of these stocks are getting oversold and not bouncing. They're getting oversold and they're like continuing down further is how that's generally working. So as that happens more and more, Stocklabs adjust this lower band down further. So it says like, all right, I got burned last time calling this oversold, so I'm not going to get burned again. So let me just ratchet this down. And if it doesn't work again, then I do it again. Like I keep dropping it down. Like you could see before when stuff was trending up, like at the back half of last year, this oversold threshold was moving up because it was like the bounces were coming in earlier. And like this was really the last one that worked really well, probably was oh, I guess this is right before the election. Yeah. But that's how that works. So you can see these stress points for overall sectors. And we can see oh wait, that's not where to be. Where was I? Okay, so everybody gets that. This is what you'll probably use the most throughout the day is your screener. There's a lot of pre-built. There's a lot of pre-built screens in here from Fly. This is his quant model. You can do ETFs. You can do. This is one volume delta screen. This is volume surge screen on 5-minute time frame. And then there's just a bunch of stuff that they're useful. You can check them throughout the day and see what pops on and off. For stuff that is pro, for people that are pro, you're going to be able to keep your screens on a live setting, which means that your screen will automatically update without you having to refresh it or without you having to do anything. So as you, let me just pull up one of my screens. So if I pull up, all right, there's nothing on this. So if I pull up, this is my volume surge screen. I keep it on 15-minute by default. But if anything new popped on here, so like if something went like 2000 VSA in the last 15 minutes, it would go straight to the top of this list. It would be highlighted in blue. So you'd see it right away. And you can sort of following along with it once. And that way you'll have stuff getting brought front and center right away as to whatever you're looking for, you know, whichever screen that you're on or stuff that you're interested in. I'll talk about volume surge versus volume delta. So the volume surge analyzer, you have this on different time frames. There's actually 1 minute that I don't have on here, but there's 1 minute, 5-minute, 15-minute, and 30-minute. Your 1 minute is in here. So you could have them all in there if you wanted to. So what this is doing is depending on the time frame. So like if you're looking at 5-minute VSA, what this is looking at is the current 5-minute candle. It's comparing the volume in that candle to the average of the prior 30 candles for whatever interval you're looking at. So like this top one, I mean, this is a nonsense ticker, but what it's saying is in the last the final 15 minutes, this ticker did 16,600% increase in volume versus the past 30 5-minute candles, or the past basically let's see, 35 and 150 minutes. So what is that, like 2.5 hours? So depending on the time frame that you're looking at, we'll give you stuff that is either maybe just popping intraday, or it could be like a longer trend forming. So I stay with 15-minute just because, I don't know, I feel like some of these, they have a better chance of like maybe turning into like a multi-day trend, as opposed to like 5-minute is kind of like, I don't know, it might be a little bit more of a crapshoot. So like it could just as easily be like a random pump and dump on 5-minute VSA. But any one of them is useful. Like Fly uses this 1-minute one sometimes. He just comes in here and does like 10x volume, and then yeah, so there's nothing like that serious in here, but he'll just have this at certain times of the day, and anything that pops like with massive volume, he'll just buy it, chase it for momentum. And I think he's gotten that to work pretty well for himself. So let me go back to, yeah, so that's volume surge analyzer. Volume delta is a little bit different, where what volume delta is doing is taking the current day's volume and it's prorating it out to like the full day and comparing that to the prior 30 days. So, and like 30-day volume delta is the only time frame you have. So if you go to, where is it? Yeah, so usually like this is the only volume delta criteria that you can add to a screen, 30-day. So what that means is, let's see if I just sort this. Okay, so let's say none of these are really like that large, but anyway, let's take this third one for example. If let's say it was 10 o'clock right now in the morning, what this is saying is, like, if this stock normally traded 1 million shares a day, and at 10 o'clock volume delta, because 200 or 2 million shares is, or like whatever, a little more than 2 million shares is 100 and some percent of the average 1 million shares that it normally trades. So this picks up volume spikes on a little bit different time scale than the surge analyzer does. Surge analyzer is keying on like an individual candle, like interval, whereas volume delta is making a calculation on like what is this final day's volume going to look like, and is the volume that it's trading at, like the current pace, is that like significant compared to what it has normally traded over the past month. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So what I normally do, like I said, in the morning, I do like a review page, and then around like 9:45, 10 o'clock-ish, I will head over to one of these two. Usually I'll pull up Delta first. And if anything, I have it set on 200%, but really, like, really I'm looking for numbers like a lot higher than that. So like that's why I have mine sorted just high to low volume delta, whereas like Raging Cajun sorts his by like how close is it to high a day. because like if I see something on here that's like, I don't know, like 10,000 or like 50,000 volume delta, then like I don't really care if it's 5% off its high, because basically I'm banking on the volume being so large that it's just gonna trump all the other stats. So I'll have this open in the morning. This is another screen that you basically have to use on live, because you want all these calculations being done over and over and over again, live, just so you have the most current data on what's moving or what's tapering off, or just whatever the market's changing throughout the day. So it helps to know what those changes are. So this is another, any of these volume delta, VSA, they're going to be live screens that you're going to want to use. Portfolios, this is new for Stocklabs. You can come in here and follow, or yeah, you can go to community. You can find anyone's portfolio that has theirs shared and follow them. So you can just come in here, and there's a button up here to follow. Once you click follow, it'll be in your following tab. So, and if you go into your, well, I say your, but this is Fly's. So you can see all of your, I mean, he kind of ramped here since the oversold. Remember we said the market had 6-month oversold on April 20th. And yeah, so you can see monthly and annual returns. The portfolio functionality is still a little bit under construction, but you're probably going to want to get your start making portfolios of your holdings and tracking them, because there's going to be more features coming to this tab where you're going to have like different like risk analyzers and ways to compare your performance to maybe different benchmarks, or stress testing, like how would your portfolio have done during XYZ, like market incident or whatever. So start using this. It's pretty easy. If you go into if you're in your own portfolio, you just come in here, you click add trade, anything that you add. If the market's open, well, actually even right now, but like if the market's open, it'll just fetch the live price. You can enter your shares, add trade, and it'll go in right away. To remove a position, you could do the same thing. Go to add trade and then just fill it out as a sell ticket. Or you can come in here and just click this X, and this X will market sell your position at the current price. So that makes it pretty easy. That's basically it for portfolios. It's pretty straightforward, I think. So the last thing that's new for Stocklabs is screener search, where you actually can search company company news releases, or if a company appears in the news associated with some keyword, you can narrow them down in real time. I mean, this is another screen that you use as with the live functionality enabled. So like say I mean, if you think back to last year when Fly was finding all the virus stocks, what you'd be able to do now is, if that was happening today, you would come in here and just search. You could search coronavirus. You could search respiratory. What is this? I can't type. And you can search like all sorts of stuff, and any company that was in the news that was either making announcements with those keywords in them, or was being associated with that, they would pop up in here, and hopefully it would have us be first, or at the very least earlier than most, on what tickers are actually part of the new trends that are popping up like day to day. So keep this in mind whenever we get sort of a new like a new trend that emerges. Just come in here. I mean, you could search like NFT. Yeah, so coin, of course, but you get the idea. Okay, so I'm trying to think if I forgot anything. Let me go back to. Another indicator for Stocklabs is SAA. So this SAA score, everyone's sort of familiar with tech and hybrid scores. These are the same as Exodus. Like, you know, every day, throughout the day, and by the end of the day, every stock has its own score set by Stocklabs. So that's good, but also might be a little noisy. So this tech score especially will change, sort of like we talked about intelligence. It could be a little erratic at times. This tech score will also go up and down like pretty frequently. What this SAA score does is smooth out these scores so you can get an idea of how these tech and hybrid scores themselves are trending. So like if you came in here and just searched by tech score, right? So whatever this is, so this has a really high tech score today, like almost 5. But its SAA scores are not that high. Like it only has 1 over, or it has 2 over 3. And you can see actually a lot of energy stuff is showing, not the same pattern, but but a lot of the energy stuff showed up as high tech scores like on the day. So these SAA scores are smoothing out these tech and hybrid scores. So a better measure, especially if you're doing something like trend following, is to sort screens by SAA score. And that'll give you a better idea of overall trend. So I would use either 1 month, or right now I'm using 1 month, 3 month, and I'm not using year to date that much right now because it's like the same as 3 month, but eventually I'll go to, like in the back half of the year, I'll be on 1 month, 3 month, and year to date. So yeah, so you saw like the list changed completely. If we sorted by tech score, it had a bunch of stuff on there. If we sort by SAA score, it's got a bunch of different stuff like in the top half, or at the top of the list. So like these are going to be better. These are going to have better trends than the stuff that was just sorted by tech score. And you can do this on different time frames too. Oh, whatever. I'll show you on my screen. So on my quant screen, which is so right now I have it sorted by market cap, but for making picks, just come in here on SAA, sort. This is trailing 1 month SAA. So these would be like what Fly would do if he was on this screen, if it was his. Score as like sort of a final overlay on your other screens. All right. I'll open it up. Are there any questions on stuff that you use that you're unclear how it works, or something that you used in Exodus that you can't find in Stocklabs or anything like that? Hello? All right. Well, that's all I've got for tonight. I think we made pretty good time. We kept it to about an hour. If you guys have other questions, that just reminded me. If you go down here and click your name and help, it's going to open up the FAQ. I've added some stuff to the past weeks, and I'll be adding other stuff to it along the way. Just general questions, a lot of stuff I talked about tonight, but if you want to see it in written form, like you forget what the volume delta calculation was, or whatever, you want an overview of intelligence again, like all this stuff is in here, and you can get to it anytime. So keep that in mind. And what else? Is there anything else in here? Anything else? You can get a hold of me. You can get a hold of me any time. I mean, DM, once they do, you can DM me. Or if you comment on any of those FAQ articles, I'll get notified about that and answer your question or whatever. Or just like message me in chat. I answer questions in there too. So yeah, just play around with a lot of the new features, see what works or what doesn't work for you, and leave some comments or anything about stuff you think could be useful, or stuff that you think of along the way, because the platform is obviously not done yet, so more stuff's going to be added along the way, just so we can make it like as good as possible for just being useful in general to everyone along the way. So yeah, that's all from me.
Thanks,
Last chance.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And if there, like I said, any questions, just shoot them along. If I don't know the answer like right off, then I'll either figure it out or get a hold of Fly or find the answer for you. Yeah, it's not a problem. So don't be shy about asking questions or making comments. I'll be doing a lot of these things like pretty often, especially while we onboard a lot of people. So you can come to as many as you want, if you think of stuff along the way, etc. And yeah, that's it.
Actually, I got one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know how you were saying you were using a SAA on like a 3-month time frame. So if you're using SAA on a 3-month time frame, what actual trade time frame are you using that for? Like, what's your hold period? Weeks? Days?
Yeah, you'd be on weeks for something that long, something that long term. Like, so, because you can see, like, you can come down to a pretty low time horizon. So, like, SAA 1 week, like, you might pick this. You might use a 1 week SAA for like maybe a 1 week hold, like 3 to 5 day hold or something like that. Like, this thing's been trending for a week, and I'm banking on the trend like continuing like a few more days, is how you can think of that. Like 3 months or year to date right now, which would be like 4 months. There are going to be things that you might think of on so 3 months is like a quarterly basis. So depending on when you were rebalancing a portfolio or rebalancing into some new set of ideas, that'll determine like which SAA score you're relying on. And obviously, yeah. So and obviously, 1 year is the longest one. This is like if you used Sharpe ratio in Exodus, I mean, they're not the same because these SAA scores are, like I said, they're derived from these tech and hybrid scores. But like a Sharpe ratio is basically like a 1 year sort of trend indicator because it's like 250 trading days or whatever. So that would be like this 1 year 1 year SAA score if you were matching like the time frames that you would use them on. So like if you use the Sharpe ratio for something, you would use a 1 year SAA score for the same thing. Like if you were swapping over to SAA instead of Sharpe.
Gotcha. So basically, you know, if it's a 3-month SAA, that's at least a month hold, or what you're planning to do a 1 month hold, something like that.
Yeah, I would say at least. I think if you're doing 1 month, if you know you're doing 1 month hold, you can probably use 1 month SAA. So like I said, that's what Fly does for his quant. So he sorts by 1 month SAA because he knows he's going to hold for 1 month. So he basically just says, these are the stocks that went up the smoothest in the last month. So I'm just going to bet that they do the same thing like the next month. And then I'll revisit it at the end of that month and see, like, if something drops out, then it's gone. If something stays in, then maybe it stays in, is how he does it.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's all I've got. Anybody else? Anything? All right. Well, I'm gonna end the meeting now, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys either in the chat or wherever. Like I said, any questions, just shoot them over, and we'll get them answered for you. All right.
All right. Thanks again, dude.
Yep. Talk to you guys later.
See you around.